Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy Mega Meeple.
Greetings and welcome to the Mega Meeple, the show all about gamers and the games that bring them together. This is episode 58. And, wow, what a weekend. Now, I had so much fun. This is the weekend going into July. My God, we're in July already. Oh, I guess I better start putting together my Gen Con top 10 list or something like that, or my top 10 mid-year favorite games, or whatever, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But anyway, yeah, yesterday we had a much-needed full day of gaming at a friend of ours. We mentioned him in previous episodes, our good friend Tuna and Karen. They hosted a cookout and gaming day. And it was pretty wild because Karen's mom was visiting over the I guess the 4th of July week or so. But she was there, and even she was gaming. And it was funny because she was like, "Oh, I need to only play simple games, and I don't know how to." And then usually when she actually gets down into the game, she's like clobbering everybody else. So she held her own against some hardcore gamers that were there. But it was a very fun, much needed fun time of gaming. Big thank you and kudos to Richard and Karen for hosting that. We had at least about a dozen people there, easy. We had 2 full gaming tables set up and playing simultaneously. And my goodness, all the games that I played. The first game I played was, I don't even remember the name of it, and I don't even think it's in production. But it was basic. If anybody knows what this game is, please shout out to me and sound off in the comments or contact me in the social media craps. But it was a game where you had a bunch of small black stones that were magnets. And everybody had like so many magnets to start out with, and a rather small playing board that was comprised of, I think, 3 or 4 triangles and put together. The object of the game was to put one of your rocks, and these things are magnetized, on the playing board. It cannot fall off the playing board, and it cannot connect with any other rock. The first player that was empty-handed wins the game. And the thing is, as you get more rocks on the playing board, they get closer and closer together. And with the magnets, they would, kind of all come together and connect. And if that happened, all of the rocks that connected together, you now had to put into your hand. And so, you could be down to maybe like 1 rock, and if you place that rock in the wrong place, that would attract the other magnet rocks, and all those rocks would come together. You could go from 1 rock to maybe 6 or 8 rocks in your hand now. So pretty good game, and there is kind of a strategy to it. There's a little trick with the magnets that you could do to try to get your piece on the playing board and not attract the other magnets. So that was pretty neat. Then we played some game that had to do with cardboard cats stacked on top of each other. I don't remember the name of the game, and I didn't play it. I was just observing. And then one of the games I brought, we got to play was Clank in Space. And then after that, we played King of Tokyo, which was that turned out to be a pretty quick game. In fact, they had their main dining room gaming table set up. So at one time, at one side of the table, we had King of Tokyo going on, And the other side of the table, we had Pandemic, Reign of Cthulhu going on. And then at the same time, at the other gaming table, we had Codename Pictures going on. So there was a lot of simultaneous games going on at this, with different groups of people, like kind of breaking off. But at one point in the day, pretty much everybody, I think maybe out of everybody, I think maybe 2 or 3 people was like at the other smaller gaming table. Kind of, I don't even know if they were playing the game. I think they were just BSing. And then our one of our hosts, Tuna, he was taking a much needed nap in his easy chair because he had been up at 4 o'clock in the morning. But we had at least 10 or 11 people all sitting around the large gaming table, and we were playing a game called Red Flag. Now, this is a really cool party game. You get a good group of people together, and basically what it is you have a series of white cards and red cards. Now, the white cards are descriptors of good, amiable, desirable traits in a date. And then the red cards are usually really gross or a definite deal breaker as far as dates go. But it was kind of interesting because some of those red cards would be played as white cards. It all boils down to knowing your audience. The way the game works is the person to your left starts off by playing 2 cards, and there must be cards that they think would be the ideal date for that person. So, for example, I'm sitting there, and the person to my left plays 2 cards, saying, "Okay, Tom, we got a wonderful date for you. Gonna hit you, hook you up, and your date has these qualities." And they played 2 cards, typically white cards. They go all the way around the table until it gets back to you, and each person plays their 2 cards describing the character traits or personality of who they think would be your perfect date. The requirement was that this would be somebody that you had to date for 6 months. So you would have to date them at least, like once a week, every week for like 6 months or something like that. So it wasn't one of these things where it's one date and that's it. No, you had to continue that relationship for at least 6 months. So it became a thing of, well, is this somebody who's you would deem desirable to date for 6 months? So that would be the first round. So once everybody around the table plays their 2 cards describing your perfect date, then they go around the table again, and this time they play the red cards or any cards that are the deal breakers, and you play those cards on somebody else's descriptions. So somebody could have played 2 cards describing your perfect date. One card could be, can get you free drinks forever at any bar in the world, and they also won the Medal of Honor or something like that, or they are trustworthy, or they make you feel secure or something like that. And then somebody else would play a red card on top of yours, and it could be somebody like they only speak in hashtags, or they've recently dated your parent, or that they recently had sex with one of your parents, or they bring mom to the first date or something like that. So, and anything that they could play on another person's cards that would be a deal breaker. And then once that round goes around, then you have to, like Cards Against Humanity, you have to choose which date you would choose. You would have to choose which person you would date for 6 months. And it was very interesting because you really need to know your audience. It was pretty cool when it was time for everybody to describe what they think my perfect date would be, what people knew about me, what they thought about me, or what they even the people who didn't really know me very well, what they would suspect would be my ideal date for 6 months. But it was pretty neat. And in fact, one one of my friends, one of the cards he played was I forget one of the white cards, but one of his 2 cards was they had a basement full of bass guitars, and so so he was real. So right off the bat, I was ready to pick that one, but somebody played a really, really grotesque and gross red card on his submission. So that was an automatic deal breaker. So I told him, Nick, I'm sorry. As much as I would love a basement full of bass guitars, that red card that somebody played on your thing, no, I can't do it because I already own 4 basses, so I'm satisfied with that. That's enough. So, but I forget which one it was, but that I picked. But it was interesting. I made this comment at the table. It's like, it's pretty interesting that most of you think that I'm, a certain type. Not that to say that you're wrong, but it's interesting to see how people read your audience. So that was a lot of fun. So if you have a good group of people, lighthearted gamers, don't take things too seriously, this is definitely a party game that you need to check out. Then we played a game of Kill Dr. Lucky. And this is one of those games it's actually put out by Cheap Ass Games. I mean, looking at it, obviously, it wasn't too much to look at, but it was the dynamics of it was pretty interesting. And I had a lot of fun playing that. So, and then we finally by that time, we had been going since 11 a.m., but about 9:30 or so at night, half the people had already left because they were tired or they had other things going on. And then of those who were still around, half of us was pretty much just tuckered out. We were just brain dead and tired from all the gaming and eating. So while half of us was like falling asleep in the other room, I was finally able to get What the Film to the table. We only had 4 players, but I still want to play it again with more players. I want to try to get it with a full contingency of 8 players. I have no idea how soon I'm going to be able to do that with the schedules of everybody trying to get together. And number 1, just to have the same schedule that they could all meet at the same night. And number 2, everybody be on board to playing. But we finally got to play it with. We had 4 players. The only critique that we had about it was the production of the game, in a sense that you have 2 decks, basically. You have one deck that is the industry card deck, and another deck that comprises your actors, scenes, and plots. And they're 2 separate decks, but they both have the exact same backing of on the cards. And that was really confusing, because you had these 2 decks that were comprised of different cards, but they had the same backs. So it was hard to tell what deck was the industry card deck and which one was the deck with all the actors, scenes, and plots in them. So it would have been really, really helpful if the industry card decks had a different back to the cards than the other one, to be able to distinguish what deck pile was what. So I don't know why they did it that way, but that was the main criticism of everyone that was there. But other than that, you get a good group of people and a good number of people. Hopefully, we play it again, and this time with more than 4 people. But with 4 people, it gave us an idea of the flow of the game and how it all goes. That was my weekend.
Every single hour in FLGS, a gamer plays a new game. Out of the 98,000 games on BGG, only a few are given the playtime they deserve. For tens of thousands of games, the joy of being played by happy gamers everywhere is something that they will never know. Will you be an angel for one of these lost games? Every day, innocent games are ignored, unplayed, and left to die on the shelf of shame. and they are crying out for help. Please go to our Pod Pledge page and support the Mega Meeple with a monthly gift right now. For just $5 a month, only 17 cents a day, you'll help rescue a game from the dust bunnies. You'll provide card sleeving, miniature paints, dice rolling, and baggies. Go now and pledge to the Mega Meeple, and you'll receive numerous rewards, including shoutouts, as well as exclusive content and merch. A game can be given a second chance at life, thanks to you. Right now, there is a lonely game that desperately needs you. Your donation says, I care, and I'm here to help. Please donate right now. Links are found on the show notes of this episode and on the Mega Meeple website.
All right, this week's episode, our guest is Mark Swanson. He's going to be talking about Feudum. So let's go to that interview right now. All right, welcome back to the Mega Meeple, and we have a guest this episode. And now, actually, at the time of recording, Origins is going on, and sadly, I'm having to spend time here in the Carolinas nursing an injured back. But I had a press pass and everything. So, but I'm kind of living vicariously through other people and having fun through all of their tweets and sharing photos and stuff like that of all the games that they are playing. And we have our guest this time is at Origins, Mark Swanson. How you doing, Mark?
I'm pretty good, Tom. How are you doing?
Doing good. So now we're going to get into your game and your company here in a little bit, but by the time this episode drops, Origin had probably just wrapped up. But now that we just have you like a man on the street thing, how's Origins going this year?
Origins is going fantastic. You're right. It ended at about 6 o'clock. The vendor hall closed, but things are still hopping. People are in the gaming hall playing and at side tables, and it's just kind of a, as you can imagine, one big gaming fest.
Wow. So now your company, Odd Bird Games, has a game out, Feudum, and now you're showcasing or playing Feudum there at the con.
I am. In fact, tomorrow night I have some games scheduled to play and demo. And then, of course, I give my demo at the booth nonstop for many hours every day until Sunday. So my voice is already a little bit hoarse. But yeah, we're having fun and doing interviews and podcasts and demoing and talking to other publishers. It's a blast so far.
Well, let's get into talking about Feudum. Now, I've seen the game personally, but I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. How did Feudum come to be, or how was it created? What was the idea behind it?
Yeah, well, if you've played as many games as I have over the years, at some point you're bound to ask yourself, well, what's the game that I would create? And so it's an amalgamation of all of my favorite mechanics, plus a mechanic that I think is rather unique, which is an economic ecosystem where there's a symbiotic relationship between guild members, where the farmer, for instance, would push goods to the merchant to the alchemist, and the alchemist to the knight. And there's a working economy in the game that I haven't seen in other games where you're actually symbiotically working together. But I think, I want to say 6 or 7 years ago, I kind of birthed the idea of these archetypal medieval characters working together in guilds, and guilds that flank the board with a map in the middle. So there's kind of two games going on at once, kind of an area control game where you're vying for power in the middle of the map, where you're taxing towns and harvesting farms and taking over outposts in effort to rise in power. And then meanwhile, you have a game going on in the guilds where guild masters and journeymen and apprentices are pushing and pulling goods from one guild to the next to create a cyclical economy. And so that was the kind of the germ of the idea in my head. And then I started cutting up pieces of paper and cardboard and using whatever I could find around the house to kind of create a very rudimentary version of the game, a prototype. Got my friends to play it, and then I realized I'm going to need lots of art in order to properly convey the idea, so that people can kind of immerse themselves into the game. And one thing led to another. I saw a poster in an ice cream shop with art on it that I loved, and I sought out the artist. I found him.
Uh-huh.
I sent him an email. I said, "Hey, I'm making a game. Would you be interested in partnering with me?" He said, "I'd love to do that." I hopped in my car. I drove 9 hours to Jackson, Mississippi, met him, became friends with him, and the rest is history. I actually was inspired by video games like Grand Theft Auto or Shadows of the Colossus, that were kind of these open world games where you could kind of pursue your existence how you saw fit. And I also loved medieval history and fantasy. So in order to entice my friends to playtest the game, I had to offer more than just, abstract concepts and cut up pieces of paper. So from the onset, I drew this elaborate map with interworking guilds. And then I focused on mechanics. And later I developed kind of like this elaborate backstory behind the characters. And I wanted to make sure that the narrative of the game correlated with the mechanics. So, the feeling would be true integration.
Yeah. Now, when I first, like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to play the game yet, but I had seen it. And one of the first things that stood out with me is that's quite of a big board. Just for people that may have like a small dining room table or something like that. What's the dimensions on that player board?
Sure. No, I totally understand. It is pretty long and pretty epic in that regard. It's 42 inches. So if you have a 6-foot table, you're fine. Okay. It fits on most rectangular sized tables. In fact, because the board is so narrow, there's actually quite a bit of play area for players to place their resources, unlike other games where you kind of have to you have very limited space on your side of the board to place stuff. So it actually is quite easy to play with. Now, when I went to Panda, I said, "Hey, I'm going to have to go a few inches above your maximum length." They weren't very happy about that initially, but they had to check with some people to see if they could do it, and fortunately, they were.
Some of these games that are like so huge, or especially if you want to play like with expansions, you put the core board on there, and then put the expansions, and you're left with maybe putting your player mat on your lap or something.
Right, exactly.
For those of us that haven't gotten a chance to play, could you describe what the victory conditions and the mechanics of the game and basically how the game plays out?
Yeah. Well, Feudum, first of all, is an open world game where you can kind of eke out your medieval existence in any way you choose. You can farm the earth, you can fight as knights, you can pursue feudums. You can choose to live kind of this peaceful agrarian life, or you can plot ways to conquer your opponents. The game does not overly reward combat or direct conflict. So in that sense, the game is not about war. However, there is high player activity and plenty of non-direct conflict, as well as a little bit of direct conflict. So it kind of scratches lots of different itches. The people that like Feudum is someone that likes slightly heavier Euros with an economy and hand and resource management. The main mechanic is action programming. And it's a game that features, some of the strategic complexities that are found in deeper games like Terra Mystica or Brass or Kalis. Someone compared it to Dominant Species in terms of complexity. Jeremy and David of Man vs. Meeple kind of likened it to like the Gallerist or Madeira. saying that there's a lot of thinking, but in the most fun way possible.
I've often gotten games just based on art. Just by I didn't know anything about the game, but I was like, this looks pretty cool. I think I would be able to enter into this game pretty easily. But the little character on the box, that's sort of like I'm not sure what you would call it.
It's a behemoth.
It's a behemoth. Okay, how was that developed? I guess things were you telling the artist that you were looking for when you told him to create that little behemoth there? Because that looks like I don't know. To me, it looks like a pretty, I don't know, cute, cute little guy there on there.
Yeah, it's a whimsical kind of monster, but don't let his look deceive you. The rumor has it that he can scoop up entire flocks of sheep and toss them into his mouth like popcorn. So he was inspired by a poster I saw in an ice cream shop. I was looking at the wall while having an ice cream cone, and I saw this poster for a local band, and it featured this lumbering behemoth coming over the mountains. And I thought to myself, that's the artist, and that's the fantasy world that I want to play in. And one thing led to another, and I incorporated this monster into the game. And it kind of but I also loved, the medieval theme, and I wanted to create kind of this medieval fantasy based on also some history. So I kind of amalgamated it all together, and now he's an integral part of the game, along with a sea serpent, by the way.
Okay.
As far as the art is concerned, why did I like this particular artist's style? I've always loved expressionism. With its thick black lines and its etchings and muted color schemes. And there's a French expressionist painter named Bernard Vathey that painted lots of, circus scenes and landscapes. And this is why I like Alexander Roche. He's the artist for Troyes, or if you're not French, Troyes.
Yeah. for us Thom Americans, that's how well. Yeah.
And of course, this is the reason why I liked my illustrator Justin Schultz, because his art featured these kind of etchings and muted color schemes and a thick black outlines, and so I was hooked from the moment I saw his artwork. Also, in looking at his artwork, there was lots of whimsy, and he kind of lures viewers in with these superficially charming images, but then upon closer inspection, there's something more heartbreaking or daunting, and or tragic, and there's a little of that in the narrative of this game. Oh, I also love the kind of the melancholy backstories found in Adventure Time, and I love the artwork of Adventure Time. So I have to give a shout out to Adventure Time because I love everything about Adventure Time.
Okay, bait and switch type of thing. It was like, he looks so cute and cuddly, and then he's like, you're gonna bite your head off or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Like just lures you in and then kills you. But like I said, Origins, you're at least presenting or showcasing the expansion to Feudum, and it was that Alter Ego.
Actually, Feudum has several expansions. The initial Kickstarter campaign blew through the stretch goals so quickly that I was unveiling expansions faster than I thought. Oh, okay. But the expansions are Windmills and Catapults, Seals and Sirens, Alter Ego, and then just a few months ago, I released The Queen's Army, which is a solo variant expansion co-developed with J.R. Honeycutt, and that should be hitting retail mid to end of July, and of course backers a few weeks before that.
How does that incorporate into the core box of Feudum?
Well, it's funny that you asked that, because initially I wasn't a huge fan of solo play, I'm lucky to have a good gaming group that meets regularly. So I never really got into a lot of solo play, maybe with the exception of experimenting with Jamie Stagmeyer's Scythe. And I'm trying to think of if there's any other games I've done solo. But I initially didn't want to build a solo variant. And I surveyed my backers, and more than a quarter of my backers said absolutely we're interested. So I said, okay, well, there's a market for it. So when I was down at BGG-Con, I met up with a fella named J.R. Honeycutt, who had recently done the development for the solo variant for Tesla versus Edison, and the variant was called Powering Up. And so we started talking, and next thing you know, I drove down to his house, and he's helping me develop it. And we, along with his partner, Brian Fightmaster Neff, and it's been an amazing experience. It's been very well received, and it's quite a bit of fun to play.
All right, cool. Now, and that you'll have those these available at Gen Con you could show people?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it'll be available in retail at the end of July. But it's people play against an AI player, or, some people like to say a robot player. And the game rewards wise resource management, and it requires quite a bit of cunning play to kind of keep the Queen's army at bay, because it moves in on you quickly and tries to thwart your rise to power. And the Queen is fairly ruthless. She comes and tries to annihilate you.
Well, is there any other games that you have coming down the pipeline that you would be able to use with us today?
I am working on a game right now. It is a worker placement game with a mechanical twist that I think people will be excited about. I don't want to reveal too much more, other than it's another game of economy. It's going to explore a particular industry in the Pacific Northwest of America in the late 1800s. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Okay. All right. So stay tuned for that there. Well, Mark, listen, I know you're recording this Middle Origins, and I want you to save that voice for the other rest of the week that you're going to need to rest up. But now, before we let you go, we have like a little game we like to play with all of our guests. It really has nothing to do with gaming, but just gives our listeners an idea of just kind of the personality of our guests. So it's called the Mega Meeple Rapid Fire Round.
Nice.
All right. And I'll say something like cats or dogs, and you choose from.
Okay. Cats right off the bat. I know that wasn't a question, but.
All right. Ready? And cowboys or aliens?
Aliens.
All right. Money or fame?
Money.
All right. Grammys or Oscars?
Oscars.
All right. Laptop or desktop?
Laptop.
And spicy or mild?
Mild.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Mark. Now, if people want to find out more about you or Oddbird Games or Feudum, where can they go?
They can go to oddbirdgames.com. They can also find retailers around the world that stock it. If they want to play it online, there are multi-platform environments on Tabletopia and Steam. And you can also find all about Feudum on social media. Facebook is facebook.com/Feudum, Feudum. It's on Instagram @FeudumGame and Twitter @FeudumGame.
All right. And of course, we'll have links to all those things in the show notes of this episode. Well, Mark, thank you so much for taking some time here at Gen Con to speak with us. I really appreciate it. So Sorry I couldn't be there personally to shake your hand and chit chat, but have fun for all of us that can't be there.
I promise to have fun. Not too much fun, though, because I feel bad for you.
Don't feel too bad. All right. Well, thank you so much, Mark. You have a good weekend.
All right. Thanks, Thom.
All right. Thank you so much for downloading and listening this week's episode. Join us again next week as our guest will be Marcus Geiger or Giger. I don't remember how to pronounce his name because I recorded the interview like 3 months ago, and it was too long ago that I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. But it's he's going to be talking about Chibi Commander. So join us again next week to listen to that, as well as whatever else I'm going to be talking that week. I don't know what I'm going to be talking about from week to week. Who knows? I just pull this stuff out of my butt. What do you want? So if you'd like to listen to more times of me pulling things out of my butt, go over to iTunes and subscribe. And while you're there, put out some of that 5-star loving. I really appreciate it. And give us a happy review. Be sure to visit the website. That's www. I think there's too many W's in there. .themegameeple.com. All one word, themegameeple.com. But yeah, if you go to the Mega Meeple website, you can check out all of our reviews, our interviews. We have an interview there just put up about a week or so ago with D&D Grandma. Check that out. I have a review, initial review impression of the Table of Ultimate Gaming, as well as all the podcast episodes. Going back all the way to episode 1 are archived there if you want to go back in time and listen to how crappy we sounded way back when. And get a sense of how much we've improved over the year. Go back to episode 1 or 2 and see how terrible that recording was. But hey, people got to start somewhere. And, when you're just starting out, obviously you're going to suck. And you could really, really help us out by supporting us on Pod Pledge or Patreon. We have links to those on our social media page on the website. And also, if you can't help us out financially, maybe like $5 or so a month, who knows? That goes a long way with hosting costs and stuff. But if you can't do that, at least spread the word out there to all your gaming friends about the Mega Meeple. Yes, I very much appreciate when I hear that somebody heard about the podcast or the YouTube channel or the show via word of mouth or just a friend. That's where the best advertisement you could get is through that. This week's episode of the Board Game Breakfast over on a Dice Tower YouTube channel, I have a little segment on there. I was very happy about this segment because I was able to record it. It was well under 2 minutes. I think it was like 1 minute, 33 seconds. And I filmed it all in one take, which is a first for me. I was real proud about that. So I even expressed that in the video. I don't know if they're going to keep that in there, but check that out this week. So, but thanks so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us again next week. Until then, this is the Mega Meeple, Thom Grogan saying, we'll see you at the gaming table. Vicariously through other people, because at the time of recording this, I wanted to be at
You had to turn off your music, huh? I knew you were good at multitasking, but this is getting ridiculous.
And whoever got rid of all their rocks, that doesn't sound right. Whoever got the rocks off